I guess maybe if you can just kind of give me an overview of like what even happens here. What is this place about?
Is this a video podcast or?
It is. They're watching us right now.
Oh, cool. All of our merch is.
Don't hit the microphone.
Drippy.
I'm sorry. Did you say your merch is drippy? And there's a fox, like literally just walking across. Well, thanks for being willing to do this. Thanks for sitting down, and I'm excited to hear a little bit from you. But first of all, why don't you tell our people who are you?
Yeah, this is cool. We're doing a podcast. Who knew?
I don't know. It's new to me too.
Yeah. I'm Dan. I am the director at Woodlake. And my family moved here from Forest Springs. We were on staff there for 8 years, mostly helping with worship. And I got to hang out a lot with Matt Hofflin and the Windles, and that was my thing. I did programmy stuff, the grilled burgers.
Still doing that, right?
Still do that.
Some grilled burgers here. Yeah, wow. We definitely miss having you there.
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's like, who's going to sing and play the music and do all this stuff? It's like we're looking at each other going, I ain't doing that. Like, where's Dan? What's he doing this weekend, right?
Yeah.
So you've been at Woodlake now, is it 2-3 years?
Like a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. And what would you say has been like some of the coolest things that you've experienced over the last year and a half here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, it's been a hard year and a half. Like a lot of challenges at different levels. Like, so my family, we moved here from Forest Springs. Forest Springs is like, I mean, you're our people. And when we get together with our friends at Forest Springs, that's the party, right? So we still love everybody there. And so moving here was like, it felt isolated. It felt alone. Small town Wisconsin is really hard to break into. Like you probably still feel this back in Westboro, Rib Lake, that unless your last name is a certain last name, like you're the new people.
Yeah, you're the outsider. You got to kind of earn your way in, maybe in a decade or three.
Yeah. Like if you're now a grandparent, your kids belong.
Okay.
Or your grandkids belong. So that's hard. But we also, like, this has been a super cool community for us. Like our kids, it wasn't just us dragging our family. Our kids were stepping into this adventure with us, and they've really embraced it in a school that's really needed light and positive witness. So like that's been really fun watching them own their faith, and they're part of this adventure. And we're already seeing like the fruit of them interacting with people on their cross country team or their track team or the basketball, you know, so like they're making a difference in their classrooms, that's really fun for us to watch. Then there's the challenge of Woodlake. A lot of great things were like rebuilt before we got here, but there's a lot that was just gone, and like things that you take advantage of when you have it all the time, right? So like,
yeah, what's some examples of that?
Yeah, well, like, so there, you kind of make when you work in an office setting, you use the printer, right? And the printer has paper, and then you print that paper, and you want to make a note on it because there's pens. Oh, and then you want to put it in a folder or something and file it away. Or don't. You crumple it up and put it in a trash can because there's trash cans. And so there's so much. Like the cabins were rebuilt and they're beautiful. But like we would step into the office and we'd be like, somebody hand me the stapler. We don't have staplers. All right. I should shred this important information so that there's not a shredder.
Burn it.
Like we're burning it. And so it's just like tons of things like that where you're realizing, wow, like at Forest Springs, I didn't have to think about.
There's staplers.
There's staplers. All the forms that you could possibly hope for exist.
Paper.
Somebody else made them. I need to make our forms, and I need to, like just everything.
Yeah.
So there was the challenge of that, and even watching our family kind of come around and embrace a new camp that's a challenge, but it's a creative challenge in some ways to try to see something that doesn't exist. And then like outside of our family, like our staff has fully like grabbed onto that challenge as well. And it's really fun to see, this is not of my making anymore. It's not my fingerprints on everything. It's our fingerprint. And so seeing the way things get designed in ways that I wouldn't have thought, and that's really, really fun. So cool. Great challenge, but with great challenge comes really great, I don't know, you get to see stuff happen that you would have seen without the challenge.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that.
Cool. Yeah. So I know a little bit about like what this place was, and then what it wasn't, and now what it is again. But like, can you give me just like a brief history lesson of what this place is, what Wood Lake is, and then how it came to be that you're here as the director?
Yeah. So like 1930, well, it's different dates, but the ministry of this place started in 1933. And then they acquired this site some years after, but it was started as an opportunity to pull teenagers aside and to train them and give them biblical teaching and to disciple them. From this whole area, it was mostly like a General Baptist Conference initiative. And so they started with a little property, just somebody's yard up on the north side of the same lake. And then a few years later, this property that we're currently sitting on, this is Wood Lake in Grantsburg. This property became available and they bought it and they had their first camp. So like 90 years ago, wow. This ministry started and with a heart to disciple teenagers. It went through a lot of like healthy and then like difficult challenges that helped it grow really big. It became like one of the quintessential camps for especially Baptist churches to come to for decades. And then through all these different circumstances, it began to decline. And there's like a deferred maintenance all over. The buildings are starting to crumble. Couldn't keep up with the debt of it, and so in 2018 it closed its doors. It cycled ownership for a while and was picked up by a couple who had a heart to see camp restored, and they're the ones that went through and started rebuilding the infrastructure of the place. So I mentioned the cabins were rebuilt, but they did like all of this underground stuff where they're building in conduit and septic and water and electricity and just all of this like super expensive, not really rewarding.
It's not like they're not building secret bunkers or tunnels or anything. They're doing like the
yet to be seen, I guess.
Oh, I guess we shouldn't. Spoiler, like you have to come back and when we do the exploring the secret bunkers of Wood Lake video.
Ooh, that'd be like a cool timeline, or dateline. That's what I was trying to say.
There you go. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead. Tell me more.
So that couple looked to offload the camp, and Forest Springs was mentioned as a camp that does really well with Christian camping. And like, if you're a camper at Forest Springs, you know the track record of Forest Springs Ministries and how steady they are and how they quality staff. And so Forest Springs was brought up as an option, and the board prayed through this decision. We had just acquired Cedar Bay, so we were still kind of reeling from acquiring our third ministry site, and this thing was like hot on the heels of Cedar Bay. And for most of us in the room, it was like, that's too soon. Like, this is crazy. We can't do this. I was one of those people, and told God, no way. Like, that should not happen for the health of Forest Springs. But the board decided, there's a lot of positive things that we see happening here, and through prayer, we feel like God is saying, let's go. And so in, what was it, 2021?
I think so, yeah.
21. I think it was like end of May, even beginning of June of 2021.
Okay.
It was like all in a hurry. They were like, no, you need to decide like next week.
Oof.
Or we're walking.
Oof.
And so that's how we felt.
Yeah.
And so we decided to do it. And then it was a little later that they talked with us about going, because we had a heart to leave Forest Springs, who had developed us, and to start a camp for youth, for teenagers specifically, and their influencers, the people who influence teenagers.
Youth pastors, parents,
yeah.
whatever.
And the staff that we hire, and college-age kids, and just to see teens discipled, youth discipled. And so it seemed like, you want to start a camp for youth? We just got a camp for youth. You want to go? And yeah.
Yeah. So what? Well, if you guys were in the spot where you're like, yeah, no, let's not do that. Let's do our own thing. But now, obviously, you're here. What was kind of what was the linchpin for you that made you change your mind?
Yeah, that's a cool question. And I'll throw my oldest son, Will. I'll throw him out there as the one who, I guess he helped us see Jesus in the midst of an empty canvas. So I'll explain that. So we came and we looked at Wood Lake. This is 2021 still. Snow is starting to fall. It was really kind of a nasty weekend. We didn't know it at the time, but we had just gotten COVID, like all of us.
Oh,
and so
congratulations.
We're laying in a cabin. I think it was Badger Cabin.
It's right over there. It's a good cabin.
So we're laying in our cabin, and we're just like, all of us miserable. We're like, these cabins are awful. Like, they're making us feel awful. Like, this is just terrible. We're taking a tour, and it's like that mushy first snow. So you're sinking into everything. It's like the snow's gross, and you're just. So we're walking around. It's kind of cold. We're uncomfortable. We've got the COVID, and we're like, this is awful. This is the worst. We want to move to mountains. We want to move to beautiful topography and use that as a way to like capture the wonder of teenagers. This is not wonderful. This is wonderless. This is awful. Absolutely no. So that was that. As was a lot of people at the time, we did most of our church services at home during this season. Sometimes we would tune in with our church. Sometimes we'd do something of our own, creating podcasts, videos, stuff. We'd worship together. And in one of those times, I pulled out an old sermon that encouraged me in college, and I played it for the family. And at the end of it, Will said, you talk about wanting to step out in faith. You want to follow God into the unknown. You want to trust Him. You want to trust Him to do things that are bigger than you. Is it possible that the wonder that you're looking for is not found in a location, but it's found in Jesus? Yeah. And
How old was he when he said that?
He was 18.
Okay.
No, wait. What would he have been? He's 19 now. So it's,
17
17
like
probably.
that.
Something.
Wow. Deep.
Yeah. And I was like, you're stupid. Go to your room. But he nailed it. And it was like, we wanted to open teenagers' eyes to the wonder of God, but we were wanting to do that with mountains instead of Christ. And that was right. And it was like, oh, okay. And I've been looking for God to open a door, and this is the stupidest door I've ever seen, but it's the one that's been opened. Maybe God is really planning on doing something amazing, and I'm just refusing to see it. And certainly the challenge that I've spoken of the last year and a half has only made our story more about Jesus. So it's been really cool then to see Jesus and to follow him through all of this crazy.
Yeah, no, that's a cool thing to be able to look back and see, because you're laying in Badger Cabin with COVID. You could not probably have anticipated that would be what you would learn from that moment. Yeah. So you guys did summer of 23, the first summer beta weeks of youth camp. You kind of got your feet under you. What was the experience like doing it for the first time? Having to buy all the trash cans and the staplers like inviting kids into that. You don't really know even what you have to offer them. What was that first summer experience like?
Well, so like I've said, our team is awesome. So if I learned anything last year, it was I learned a lot of my limits. So I think that I have a pretty sharp mind, but I can always find people whose minds are a little sharper than mine, for one. And then, man, like the amount of... Well, okay, so at Man Camp 2022, I got to come back to Forest Springs and help lead worship for Man Camp 22, 23.
Both?
22, not 23.
No, yeah, okay.
And at Saturday night of Man Camp, there's this humongous epic dodgeball extravaganza type thing, and all these teams. There's a bracket. It's a lot of fun. You usually lead that, right?
I've helped with it. Yeah, I usually just want to watch people get hit in the face. So that's kind of what I go for, right? Well,
I got this really cool picture. It was instructive to me when they initially dumped all of these dodgeballs out onto the floor, and kids scatter, right? Like they all just. And I was like, wow, that's a picture of this last year in a lot of ways. Is the balls hit the ground, they scatter, the kids run and just start kicking them everywhere, and there's, cats and herding kittens, and not hurting kittens, but herding kittens.
Yes.
Yeah.
No kittens were harmed in the making of this dodgeball documentary.
That's how it felt, and my brain felt like dodgeballs going everywhere. And so it was finding all the things that you need to be safe, writing procedures to be safe, designing the schedule that's never been done, finding campers who have never come, finding staff and trying to cast a vision for, like, hey, come spend the summer with us. We'll pay you.
Yeah. What will I do? Well, I don't know. We'll figure it out when you get here.
But yeah, through that, our team was just, when they couldn't find direction from me, they went and they picked it up. And so with the help of the Holy Spirit and, like, here's all the stuff you got to do. Certainly a whole lot of what we learned from being at Forest Springs for all those years. And it was then amazing. Like, so I I would say, like, if we can't get 50 kids per week, I don't know if it's worth it. Cancel the week. But then, like, we never had 50 kids. I think we had 50 kids total.
Okay.
For our 4 weeks. That ended up being 3 weeks of youth camp that summer. We had some really great big youth ministries come in and rent the space. And that was a lot of fun. But we had a week that was like 11 kids. And just like, who does this? Like, this is... But to see kids show up and to see, like, the work that we had been doing and, like, the sacrifice of the other sites and all the prayer, like, come together, and for 11 kids, like, just changed their lives. That week with 11 kids was the first kid that we as a ministry got to lead to Christ. And it's like such a weird week. Like, we're from Forest Springs, where, like, there's a waiting list and 240 kids.
Yeah.
And we're used to a full room jumping around during worship, and leading 11 middle school, high school boys in worship. That was different. But God used it. It was really cool. And sometimes we were writing procedures, like waterfront safety procedures, like as kids are, like, running into the water, and we're like, oh,
Probably should make a rule that we don't do that anymore.
Hey,
you okay?
Hey, don't do that. That's one of our rules.
Walk it off.
Still see bubbles, so that's good. Yeah, so it's scary and exciting, and yeah.
So what?
Really fun.
We got another summer coming up, right? So right around the corner here. What are you looking forward to in summer 2024?
Oh man, I am so excited to feel like we know what we're doing, because last summer we did a lot of stuff, and this summer we're like, oh yeah, we just got to build that schedule like we did last time.
Yes.
Yeah, like, we have all the stuff in place now that we can use, and it's really, we have staplers.
Yeah,
now.
good. Yeah. You got to get those papers to stick together before you put them in the file and over there. Which, do we have a file system?
Oh, we'll buy one.
Cabinet somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really excited for kids that are coming back now. Like, so since the summer, we did a fall retreat, we did a winter camp, and there's already this little crew of kids where they say Wood Lake is my camp. And there's a group of kids in town here, a group of girls at Grantsburg School, who wear the same powder blue Wood Lake sweatshirt every Friday, because it's their thing.
Yeah.
It's what they do. I don't know if they're going to do it when it gets really warm outside, but Friday is Grantsburg appreciation, like, wear your Grantsburg clothes to school. And so they choose to wear Wood Lake and Grantsburg sweatshirts every Friday as a crew, and they come to everything that we do.
Wow.
And there's a group of guys like that too, and so I'm excited for the kids that are coming back for their second year. I'm excited to to grow on the adventures that they had last year, and to let them have something new. I'm excited for kids that have not been here, because they're now stepping into something that has, I'll say this loosely because it's only been a year, but it has culture to it.
Yeah.
Like Wood Lake has a vibe. It has a feel. It's really cool to offer them something that has now been created, not just by us, by our campers. And that's super cool.
So talk to me a little bit about the Wood Lake vibe. Like, what somebody who comes here, what's it like?
Yeah.
Is it like really intense? Is it, everybody just sitting around looking at each other? Like, what's the experience like?
It's a little of both, I'd say. We actually, so one of the things that the kids invented last summer, in our first week of camp, they were like, "This is so cool. It's like chill and hype. It's like, it's chipe." And we're like,
Chipe.
that's a new word.
Chipe.
And
write it down.
I guess that's us now.
Yeah.
Because we're chipe.
Chipe.
And yeah, it took a little bit, but it's grown on us. And they're right though. Like we in our programming, partly because we don't have much of a budget, but also partly by design, we under-program things a little bit because we want cabins to have the opportunity to let's just spend a half hour playing 9 Square and talking and just getting to know each other. And we want to force them to slow down just a little so that by the end of the week they'll say, man, my cabin was so much fun. And like Luke, he did this thing, and then like we went on a run, and he broke his leg, and so we carried him. It wasn't really broken; it was a sprain.
Okay, good.
That's a true story though, and like they all carried him, and like these were kids that didn't know each other.
Yeah.
But by the end of the week, they were like they still keep in touch, and they're from like opposite ends of the state, and so it's under-programmed on purpose so that they really get to know each other by the end of the week. But then when we play a night game, for instance, or when we come into session, it's intentionally hype, or it's big scale. It's a lot of energy. So you kind of like wander between the two of like this is super chill. Like, what are we going to do now? I don't know. Let's go ride the banana boat. And then you get to the banana boat, and it's like super high energy, and it's a lot of fun. And so that's a bit of the culture that's been developed.
It's cool to hear like kind of the chipe, the chill hype that's going on, and how kids are kind of finding their way and can experience that. But like what do they experience when they're here? So like maybe walk me through like a typical day of summer camp.
Right. Yeah. So if you're a parent out there, that would be a parent. If you're a parent out there and you're thinking like, I don't know if I could send my kid to this place where they don't have waterfront procedures. Well, we do.
They do now.
We do.
They have them now.
Just from the essentials, from the staples up, we have our cabins are newly refurbished. They're dorm style, so 8 kids at a time are in a cabin with a counselor. There is heating and air conditioning, which is a really nice feature, and each cabin will How do I want to phrase the things? Yeah, I almost went and started describing it like it's decentralized, and
you don't have to
I
do
am
that.
not going there.
Nope, don't even use that word.
That is not a thing that we are.
We don't. Nope, we don't do that.
Like cabins go around in pods,
Oh.
and they go as a unit. They don't.
They don't.
They don't actually
They
do
don't. What
that.
do they
That would
do?
be decentralized, and we are not. We are centralized, I think.
Can we stop using those words
Yeah.
now? I'm getting an ulcer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they you have your cabins. All the buildings are like chip chop. You know,
I don't
tip
even know
top
if
shape.
that's important to say. Every day of a week of camp, a cabin wakes up and they come to breakfast. Before that, I'm meeting with their counselors. I'm talking through the day and what's going to be taught. And I've given them resources, the counselors and the leaders, of how to have conversations with their cabin about the truth that's being taught that day. Mm-hmm. So they have small group questions that they're going to walk through with their kids, but then also like deeper than that, like, okay, so you took your cabin and you're playing 9 Square with them for a half hour. Here are some tools to take the Bible lessons that we're talking through and to turn it into, at any point of the day, conversations, to continue the thought process of helping truth infuse into their minds and their thinking and their hearts. So that's something that we do like first thing in the morning with counselors and cabin leaders and group leaders that are coming with their youth groups. Our meals are all made from scratch upstairs in the kitchen, up in the table, and they're going to have 3 really amazing meals sitting around the table with their cabin. We may have mentioned that earlier. Every day has a list of things that happen at any point of the day. So they could play 9 square, they could play gaga ball, they could hike around the grounds. Then there's things that you sign up for, like banana boat is kind of what it sounds like. It's a tube, but it looks like a banana, and instead of 1 or 2 people being pulled on this tube, it's like 6 people. So you could get most of your cabin out there and ride this this big, like, it looks hilarious.
Awesome.
Like a bucking bronco with your 5 best friends on a lake. And so it kind of becomes like this team sport of, like, if one person falls off, we're all going. So they're all holding on and they're like, lean. It's like Cool Runnings, right? Like, so
that took me back all of a sudden. Just
yeah, right.
It was 1996 all over again.
So there's a banana boat they sign up for in half-hour time slots. We have a game called archery tag where your whole cabin can go out and compete against another cabin, and it is also what it sounds like. You're shooting bow and arrow at each other.
Okay.
But instead of arrowheads, you have like these big fluffy marshmallow things on the end, and you all wear like paintball masks, and there's barriers, and you fire arrows at each other, and you get hit with fluffy marshmallow arrows.
Delicious. Sticky.
It's really gross on hot days. We have a climbing tower that they can sign up as a cabin as well, or individually if their whole cabin is like, yeah, we're not climbing a tower. But that is, that sentence just disappeared in my brain.
Sweet.
Also through the week, we have these like designed adventures that we take kids on. So last summer, the 2 adventures that we had were, first adventure was everybody got in canoes, and we paddled canoes out to an island in the middle of the lake, and behind the island was one of our boats with trays of watermelon cut up. So everybody canoes out there. I'm laughing because there's stories of some of these like local gals who are now our regulars, and they had no idea how to canoe. And so I'm not going to name names here. But like literally it took them 30 minutes to get just, not too far to this island over here. And they're literally doing this the entire time.
It's a new paddling technique.
Yeah. So like they just couldn't figure out like how to get there. And so their canoe is like going in little circles the whole time. And they're like just talking the entire time. Like, canoeing is fun. They're learning how to do. Yeah, so anyway,
that's funny.
That was our first adventure.
Right.
Canoe out to the island, eat watermelon. That was fun. And then our second was we all got in a bus and we went to state park in St. Croix Falls. Okay. And there was this like afternoon hike that we did. And so we took our lunches with us and did like a day hike. And that was a lot of kids, even the kids from the area, didn't know that the park existed and had never hiked. And so it was just fun as one of our first adventures. This year we'll have different adventures. And that's something that happens. There's usually 2 adventures a week, and then we'll play 2 night games. Night games are another story that maybe that's a future podcast.
Future episode. Come back later.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
This is crazy. But we'll do night games. We'll go on adventures. We'll have just random hangout. We do a couple sessions every day. And then every session has a group time, like I said, and they're spending time with their cabins. And
sweet.
Yeah.
So we're kind of wrapping it up here. One of the things that I've heard a little bit from you at the beginning, your story of just kind of what God was doing to kind of get you here, and the way that something you didn't think as the most obvious choice is now kind of where God has you. He's doing stuff here. Mm-hmm. So like, what do you feel like God has kind of been teaching you recently in your leading the team here and your family and in what you guys are all about?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll kind of go back to that original encouragement that kind of recentered our eyes, right? That is it possible that Jesus is the adventure or the wonder that you're looking for and not the location? And that started me on a journey of my own. And I would extend this to my whole family, and really, like, as a staff team, as we've been growing in this, I would extend it even larger to our staff as well. We sing a song in worship here. It's by Citizens and Saints. They do a lot of songs that we've done in Forest Springs, and but it's called "Only Jesus Christ," and the chorus is literally, you say over and over, "Only Jesus, only Jesus. Who is truest life? Only Jesus." And you just keep saying that over and over, and that seems kind of redundant or maybe kind of a silly sentiment on first couple sings, but the more you sing that and then you're walking with him through challenges like this has been, and through even the loneliness that all of us have experienced, like my family and everyone on staff has felt this loneliness at times, because we're such a small team. Mm-hmm. And the community is such a small community, and they're wonderful people, but they haven't been our people for a long time. All of us made choices to leave the incredible community of Forest Springs and to come here. And so as we've walked through these things, each of us in our own ways has been taught slowly but consistently that it really is, it's only Jesus. And there's no way to describe that statement, "It's only Jesus," until you're walking in it. And you're like, wow, like, I'm not enough. And my team is telling me this, like, I'm not enough. I am not a great leader all the time. And they know it, and I know it, but for Jesus. As great of friends, and as much as I love my staff, and as much as I love my family, it's still very isolating. I'm extremely lonely all the time, except the Jesus. And because of Jesus, then my family can be more. And because of Jesus, I love my staff so much more. And they fill that loneliness for me better than they should be able to, because Jesus. And yeah, seeing how quickly the light has started to have an impact in this community. Because the light it was here, but it was under a bushel. It was like under a basket. And like, kids would pass each other in hallways not knowing who the other believers were. They just knew, like, it's just me. Well, then we started doing community events, and they would see each other and be like, "What are you doing here? oh, well, yeah, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. Like, I didn't know. We go to school together.
Oh, that's cool.
So I think that's the biggest thing and it's not just me in my family, but it's all of my family. And they're all growing closer to Jesus as a result of this, which is not something that I wanted, but I couldn't have really created it.
Yeah.
But for Jesus. So
that's good.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I've talked about our staff already, but our staff, if there's such a thing as Chipe, if there's a Wood Lake culture, like our staff is the culture, and they've become the culture. All of us are introverts. Even Josh Estep, our food service director, who is the most extroverted introvert you could ever know. But we're all introverts, and so we can go a whole day in the office and like not even talk. We're like,
just
we're cool.
We're just, I'll just do my thing.
Hey, you're there, I'm here. Let's do stuff. And okay, cool. But they have become the culture of Wood Lake in such a cool way. They have demonstrated faith in Jesus. They have learned how through this last year and a half. I mean, you could say that they're a flexible staff. We're flexible, but really, like, they've learned to just say, we have no idea how God's going to do this. Let's start doing stuff and see what happens. Okay, it might fail. Like a lot of what we did last year failed just royally, but God did stuff, and that's been good for us to just keep walking.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, yeah, thank you for your time. Thanks for sharing a little bit about what's happening here at Wood Lake, and we're excited to get into summer number 2, right?
Yeah.
See what kind of chill hype you're going to come up with for summer 2024, which you could be at if you want, maybe.
There are still registration spots available.
Yes. So if you want to learn more about anything that he said, you can go to woodlake.us and you can find out more, or you can come to camp, or you can send him a letter in the mail and tell him how much you liked his things that he told you or whatever we're saying. I don't know. I don't know how to end this. I didn't make a roadmap for how to end to arrive at the destination. So
if you're looking for a place a new camp community to join this summer, and you want to register for one of our youth camps, you can do that. The dates are all online. If you're looking for a summer job and you want to be a part of this community that we've just described for you, this Chipe community that doesn't always know what they're doing, but we have a great time. We're still looking for staff, and let's say that they are listening to this podcast for the first time.
Okay.
And it's 2027.
Oh, okay. Yep. Future.
Right? So they found the archives, and they're like, wow, look at this new podcast I'm listening to. We're still hiring for summer 2027 or 8. Whatever. We're hiring. So just, go and
fill out the application. Just do it right now. How should we end it? What should we say? Ready?